Copyright, University of South Australia. This recording may contain third-party copyright material. Apart from any use permitted under the Copyright Act 1968, no part of this recording may be reproduced or rebroadcast by any means or process without the prior written permission of the University of South Australia and the copyright owners.
Welcome to a video on some of the digestive organs and their functions. So let's go ahead and try and label this picture. So we can see that these would be our digestive organs. Some of them are your primary digestive organs, some of them are your secondary digestive organs. So meaning that those which come directly in contact with food, whereas those who secrete things into the primaries and therefore do not come in direct contact with the food. So let's start right at the top, start with some labeling. Here, this structure coming down and bringing food towards the digestive system is your esophagus. So right at the top there, we can see the esophagus, which is going to be passing from your neck right down into your abdominal cavity, passing through the superior thoracic aperture and the inferior thoracic aperture. Then here, this is above the level of the liver, so it would actually be your abdominal aorta. Alright, because from previous videos we know that the diaphragm would be lying with its right dome here and its left dome here. So now we're in the abdominal cavity, whereas above would be the thoracic cavity. So then, as we can see, A would be the liver. Now, two of its functions as an example would be to produce bile. Right, it's also there to detoxify any drugs or alcohol that you might have consumed. And it's there to also store glucose. All right, so it stores quite a bit of glucose. All right, and you can see here that this large venous structure is actually draining all of these digestive organs back towards the liver. All right, so this is how any of the nutrients and things get to your liver first after digestion. B is the gallbladder, and which is a storage vessel for bile. So you can see that there's a bit of a green duct here coming out of the liver. So bile comes through these two bile ducts. And then what it does, it fills down towards the pancreas and the duodenum. As bile is constantly being produced, that duct fills up and then gets to a point where it goes into the gallbladder and is stored there and concentrated there for a short period of time until your next meal. So then the next one is the stomach, right, which is a temporary reservoir for food, right, and it's there to mix and churn your digestive food, like the bolus that you've just eaten, with chemicals like hydrochloric acid and pepsinogen and things like this. The next segment that we have is, if we follow the lesser curvature and the greater curvature of the stomach along, it comes to a narrow part. So this part here, if we just put a dotted line, then this is where you have a muscle. It's called the Pyloric Sphincter, right? And that there slows gastric emptying so that it can make sure that it's digested well enough inside the stomach. D then is the Duodenum, all right? And it actually has four parts. So you can see here that this part here would be the descending part, all right? Also the pyloric part would be first, the descending part would be second, the horizontal part would be third, and there's a small part here behind the stomach which is going up, so we call that the ascending part. Now, some people describe this as being 12 fingers long, right? And it's responsible for receiving digestive juices from the liver and the gallbladder, so bile, but also from here, which is the pancreas. So if we just put an extra little line in and label this one as the pancreas, that would be putting in bicarbonate and other digestive enzymes into the mixed food. So the duodenum does no absorption, but it's there for adding some different digestive juices so that the next segment, which would be the jejunum, can start to absorb some food, or some nutrients in this case. So if we follow along, we've got E next. Now this is the large intestine, right, and it has a few different parts. So E, this part of it here, is called the ascending colon, because you can see that it's passing upwards. Then F Here, this lower segment, the distal 2/3 of the small intestine, this is the ileum. Now notice that this has a similar pronunciation to that of the pelvic bones, but spelt differently, spelt with an E. So this is for more absorption of starches and proteins that take a little bit longer to digest, when compared to M, which is the jejunum, and that's more carbohydrates. G is we have the cecum, so C-A-E-C-U-M. Now our cecum does a small job, all right, when compared to other animals. So other animals which eat a lot of grass and things like this, so especially like a horse as an example, they do secondary fermentation in this segment of their gut, all right, because they need to digest that grass a little bit further to get enough energy to support themselves. H, here we have the appendix. Now in us, once again, very small function, but in animals like a hare or a koala is really big. So as an example, a eucalyptus leaf can take 5 days to pass through a koala's digestive system. So it needs to sit there and kind of ferment a lot more so that they can get the energy out of it. I, this part here is shaped like an S, all right, so we would call it the sigmoid. Now we know that anything ending in OID is like, so sigmoid colon. J, all right, so J, here we have transverse colon. Once again, just to carry waste along. Now the large intestine is more about compacting your waste and dehydrating it so that by the end, when you need to remove waste from your system, it's all ready to go in its small packages. K, and we have down here, this is the rectum. All right, we've talked about that one before when we did the pelvic organs. And then here we have L. All right, so if we have L over here, this is pointing to an artery, and this is called your superior mesenteric artery. Now, we have another video which is labelled the peritoneum, which describes all these different arteries. The celiac trunk, which is this top one here, the superior mesenteric artery, which is this one here, and the inferior mesenteric artery, which is this one just here. So these three things supply different regions of the gut. So celiac trunk supplies the foregut, so what's coming first. The superior mesenteric artery supplies the mid-gut, and then the inferior mesenteric artery would supply the hindgut. All right, and that will be all more explained in a video called the peritoneum, along with the mesentery, which are the supporting structures of the digestive organs. All right, thanks very much.